At present, there are 14 according to my reckoning, but he writes 15, maybe he is correct. 15th one I do not know. Of these 14 open universities, one is the national, other the state, including KKHSOU Open University. So what is the correct number? If somebody verifies this, I shall be benefited, and let me know through WhatsApp or phone. He says 15, I say 14. My record may be incomplete, but I am sure of whatever I am saying. Now, look at the job that we are doing. If I am doing some job, if I am teaching, which I was for decades, and if my students in number and quality, both in quality and quantity, are not there, not getting benefit, I should better go for some other option. Teaching is not for everybody. If I cannot produce good students, I should have my own heart search, and I can go for some other vocation, other job. But I have no business of spoiling some young people's future. Now the beneficiaries started becoming larger and larger. In the early 60s, 60 to 63, only a handful of students learners got the benefit. By the time 75, 76, 65,000, 1991, 6 lakhs, then 92, 93, 8 lakhs, and so on. At the moment, we have 12% of the gross enrollment ratio of the country, which was, by the way, mentioned by Professor Das as something like 26.3, but I put it 26 to 28 because various reports give various figures, but by and large around 27. Of that, 12% is from open universities, mind you, nearly 50%. But then Dr. Das says 11%, although it is 1% different, but maybe he is right. But my document is saying 12%. Dr. Das's document also read 12%. But what is important is not 11 or 12, this number game. So nearly 50% is contributed by distance education. I will not go to National Education Policy 2020 because this is what my colleague Professor Mohanto has chosen, so he will mention it. That 50% is the country's goal by 2035. And you can imagine what is supposed to be contributed both in terms of quality and quantity by open universities. We have to go almost up to 25%. All open universities, including IGNOU, taken together. A big job, but I think it's going to be a wonderful job and great service to the society and the nation. The technology used, I have already mentioned, all of you know, but just to sum up under one subheading, it started with post office, then telephone, television, teleconferencing, video conferencing, email. By the way, I must tell you, email use started in a large quantum in universities only. Then, of course, it spread everywhere. Now everybody communicates with every other person through email. Message board, forum, voicemail, video cassette, mobile, cloud, virtual reality, and so forth. There are several other names by which vocational education is also known, which you must be knowing. I'm just putting them together. Open learning, virtual education, extension courses, distance learning, correspondence courses, correspondence education, and so forth. The need and importance, I think by now all of us understand, and this forum, I do not like to take your time on that. We already have understood, but something that is very important where I am going to draw your attention is something that is coming. Professor Mohanto, as I said, he is going to surely touch upon this, that the distance education has to play a very important role, both in terms of quality and quantity, because 50% target we have put it. At the moment, the world average is something like 55. The advanced countries are between 65 and 75. And we are still around 27. And this cannot go on. Now, I'm coming close to the end. What are the challenges of distance education in India? That is something all of us, particularly you who are in the distance education business most of, and we helping you, supporting you, must know that quality of distance education, if I am allowed, if I am permitted to say, is not maintained well in the country. People used to laugh and they have reasons. I do not want to name universities where distance education courses, materials, and form for application could be purchased in pawn shops. Don't laugh at me. I have evidence. Pawn shops. So much so. Now it is stopped, I hope, because there is some checks and balances. So that is not how the quality can be maintained. Extended technology is a must for us. More linkages, obviously it is generally well talked about always. Technology savvy teachers, training of such courses, training to use tools. I may buy sophisticated instruments and equipment, but if I do not know how to make good use, it is better not to waste money. So this is the situation. Developing courses, my dear friends, is an extremely important thing. I had the privilege of being a vice chancellor of some university. Also, I have been associated with many educational institutes, including IITs. The study material, most of them are unfortunately full of mistakes, starting from syntax, grammar, to even textual and factual. We have no business to spoil the future of the student. So I would like to urge upon all of us, including myself. We also have a textbook publishing section. I always am with them. They may not take me well, but I don't care. That I say that look, spelling mistakes, factual mistakes must not figure. If such a thing comes, whole lot be minister be requested to stop sending to the students. So that is something. Content writers, you see, hefty amount you can pay, but if I am not competent for writing content for a particular course, I should be rather spared. Those who can do it, it's a kind of a worship. It is not just for money's sake that we write courses. So please take note of this. I am sure you all are doing it. Strict monitoring that I have started with. Students have to be motivated because there is a class in class. Although the government has done its job, that they say that degree acquired through distance education is as good or as bad as face-to-face one. So government has given that. But that stigma, I think, still persists in the mind of the students, in our country at least, and we have to remove this. So please see that, that is done by us. Scope is limitless. The last item would have been KKHSOU, but I think my colleagues like Dr. Das and Dr. Mahanta, they have already covered, so I'm not spending upon. Only one point I thought I missed is that they are also into institute social responsibilities. They have mentioned something, but to be more precise. So friends, with this I come to a close. Thank you for giving me patient hearing, the platform. I should not be complete if I do not thank my Minister of Education, though he is a very busy person, but he supports distance education as much as other kind of education. Only thing, sometimes we fail to enlighten him because one person taking 100 things, obviously the concentration gets diverted, attention gets diverted. Also our Chief Minister, he is very, very supportive, but we must take benefit. Let us conclude by rededicating ourselves for the cause of KKHSOU State Open University. Let the benefit go. Thank you again, and thank you very, very much. If there is any question, I can take, but I suppose in such a celebration
so much, sir, for your valuable insights on distance education and for your words of wisdom. I am profusely elated to take this opportunity to introduce Professor Noni Gopal Mohanto from the Department of Political Science and Director, Center for Southeast Asian Studies, Guwahati University. A former Rotary World Peace Fellow at the University of California, he has published widely and is a regular contributor to various national and regional newspapers and journals, primarily on the contemporary conflict issues in India's Northeast. Apart from authoring several significant books, he has also edited a number of books in both English and Assamese, including Shifting Terrain, Conflict Dynamics in Northeast India. He received the ERDF Award of Excellence 2009 for creating public awareness about civic and social rights and responsibilities. Now I request Professor Noni Gopal Mohanto to deliver the 15th Foundation Day lecture of Krishnakanta Handik, State Open University.
Honorable Vice Chancellor Krishnakanta Handik Open University, Professor Kondrupadas, Honorable Advisor Education Government of Assam, Mirikanta Chaudhary sir, Honorable Registrar Urjati Chaudhary sir, former Vice Chancellor of this university, Borba sir, I think Borba sir is there, and former VC Astu Goswami sir, and our Honorable Vice Chancellor from Cotton University, Bhavesh Goswami sir, esteemed guests, officials of the university, and my dear faculty members and ladies and gentlemen. Well, I do feel deeply humbled and honored at being given this opportunity to deliver the 15th Foundation Day Celebration lecture. I profoundly thank and offer my gratitude to the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Registrar, and to the officials for having given me this opportunity. Well, various issues pertaining to distance education and the glorious history of this university has already been told by the Vice Chancellor, and more particularly, Honorable Advisor to the State Government, Chaudhary sir, has very extensively, in details, he has elaborated the evolution of distance education globally, nationally, as well as in the context of our country. Well, I do not want to go into the details so far as distance education is concerned. I would like to talk more specifically, generically, about new education policy and higher education in Assam. In this regard, most of us, many of us, in fact, we are associated with discussion, debate of new education policy. So I would not like to necessarily paraphrase every facet and characteristic of new education policy. But what I intend to do is to look into certain operational parameters of higher education in Assam in the context of new education policy. Now, in the post-independence period, we had number of committees and commissions about education, whether it is Radhakrishnan Commission, Kothari Commission, Ramamurthy Review Committee, 1990, Punia Commission, 1993, Ambani Birla Report, National Knowledge Commission, Yaspal Committee Report, so on and so forth. But in terms of education policies, we have had essentially three education policies from 68 to 1986, and the current one, which is the most extensive one, most comprehensive one, being the New Education Policy 2020. Well, there are certain structural or content-wise differences among all these education policies, particularly in terms of goals of education, particularly in the changing landscape of global economics and politics. The nature and understanding of education has also been changing. At the strategic level, the difference among these education policies are primarily at three dimensions. One is the vision of the society, secondly, social purpose, and thirdly, purpose of education. Well, I have elaborated how these three areas have been highlighted in different ways by these education policies of 68, 86, and 2020. Well, if you look at the policies of 86 and 2020, they have vividly a distinct idea about Indian society. In the 1980s, world economies were largely local and some of them were in transient phase. Comparatively, the global economies today, but now are opening up. In fact, there is a reverse globalization, regionalization, so on and so forth. A 1986 national education policy focused on standardization and equal opportunities to all, but NEP 2020 focuses on augmenting individual capacity and achieving excellence in the field of choice by providing customizable options for educations while hoping to reduce regulation. I do not want to go into the comparative dimension of the education policies of three education policies. It is there in my paper. Well, here I would like to draw your kind attention, which we have not focused much, but I am glad to see that KKH has given its place in your website. That is about the Wardha scheme of education of 1937. I'm amazed by the kind of contrast of various facets of Gandhian education policy way back in 1937, and how Dr. Zakir Hussain, the chairman, tried to formulate many of its policies, and we find many of its manifestations today in our education policy. These are, by and large, they talked about number one, Gandhiji's education scheme way back in 1937, free and compulsory education, craft-centered education, that is on vocational, that is on giving emphasis on local knowledge, how local knowledge can be incorporated into the education system. That is Gandhi's contribution. Then self-supporting education. Today we talk about self-sustaining model. Gandhiji tried to finance the education system by economizing the local knowledge, local craft, local vocations. I think that is uniqueness. Then he talked about the medium of instruction should be mother tongue, which today in 2020 we are talking about, giving so much emphasis on local language, mother tongue, market language, second language, so on and so forth. Then coming to the idea of citizenship, the individual, the way we are conceptualizing, Gandhi talked about personal growth, dignity, efficiency in cooperative community. And lastly, flexible curriculum. All these facets today, we have manifestation in new education policy. Well, I'm not glorifying every aspect of Gandhian education, but what I intend to tell you is the vision of Gandhiji in terms of conceptualizing an education system that will build future India. Now, this new education policy, well, I do not want to paraphrase every dimension because due to paucity of time already we have listened to many important issues. By and large, I think important contribution of this new education policy is that it has broken down the silos. It has gone beyond compartmentalization. It has questioned the regimentation of discipline to a multidisciplinary approach in undergraduate education, moving towards faculty and institutional autonomy, revamping curriculum, pedagogy, assessment and student support for student experiences. Now, even the university has been conceptualized in a in a much more expanded manner, talking about it, saying that university will mean multidisciplinary institution of higher learning that offers undergraduate and graduate program with high quality teaching at one number, second research, and thirdly community engagement. I believe this is a very important dimension. Not necessarily confining ourselves only to undergraduation and graduation, but also very productive community engagement. And new education policy, if you look at, in number of pages, it has talked about how this community engagement could be possibly incorporated in our higher education system. Well, there is also concept of research intensive university, teaching intensive universities. I do not want to go into that. Then colleges, they talk about that it would be essentially undergraduate education. They will be given autonomy, subsequent autonomy. Well, these colleges will be multidisciplinary institution of higher learning that grants undergraduate degrees and is primarily focused on undergraduate teaching. Of course, in future they will have the autonomy to go up as a PG institution. Now these colleges are divided: A, autonomous degree granting institution, and B, as a constituent college of a university. Now I do not want to go into the issues of affiliations, multidisciplinarity, so on and so forth. Now what is this multidisciplinarity? It's basically bringing together integration of arts and social science with concept called STEM, that is science, technology, engineering and management. Mathematics, STEM. Thank you, sir. Now, therefore, regarding this is the integration of science and social science with these issues of, science, technology, engineering and mathematics. Here I am coming to the issues of, with these words, how these basic principles would be applied in the days to come, and also as a person, as I am associated with various and under maybe leadership of Education Minister and also our Honorable Education Advisor also there. We are associated with a lot of committees, and from my experience, my association with a lot of colleges and university curriculum, principal selection process, or even in the promotion that we have looked into recently, on that basis, I believe 7 pillars of higher education is very critical in case of Assam. What are these 7 pillars of education? These 7 pillars of education, what I believe would be very critical in the days to come. Number 1 is innovation and autonomy. Second, value addition into subject. Thirdly, plight of new universities and the role of the state government. Fourth, role of social science versus science and the harmonization between science and arts and reflection in the job market of both public and private sector. Fifth, policy and research convergence. Sixth, role of teachers, particularly recruitment and promotion. And seventh, quality research and publication. I believe we may have the best education policies in the days to come. But new education policies by themselves cannot do wonders for the state. In addition, these NEP principles should not be implemented in one go. There will be, I believe, progressive realization maybe in 2030 or maybe in 2040. So, but how to prepare ourselves for the quality enhancement, for the quality dimension? Now, the most important role, as I look at it, is the role of teacher. Now, who is a teacher? Because the role of the teacher has been changing. In Indian philosophy, it is said, amantram aksharam nasti, nasti maulama aushadham, ayugga purusha nasti, yujakastruta dullabha. It means no syllables are useless, whether it is A, B, C, D, or A, Ko, Ko. All of them are important. amantaramakshanam nasti. Nasti maulama oshadham. No trees, every tree is having some medicinal property. Ayugga purusha nasti means there is no useless person. Every person on earth has got some utility. What we need is yojakastuta durlabham, means what we need is a person, is a teacher who can connect him to the world of wisdom. So that is the perception of a teacher who could connect people to the world of wisdom. Now, under the present context, the role of teacher has been changing. Previously, teacher used to provide education. Teacher শিক্ষা দান করেছিলেন, give education. But now, teacher, along with giving education, along with extending education, you are facilitator. Because Google Baba is now playing a very important role. Previously, Hikha was associated with Diksha. Diksha is not necessarily a spiritual process. Diksha is a holistic process of education. For example, when Krishna was brought to some Handipani Muni ashram and he was given Sophostikola, Kola, that is the essence of liberal education. Hikha is not just given by the guru. Hikha is also, you need to extend it to the community, your experience in community, your homorgola, diplomacy, negotiation, engineering, mathematics, so on and so forth. So that is called Diksha, Jivan or Diksha. Even if you ask me, the teacher I remember most from my primary education is the one, Rotikanta Gogoi, who taught me to fight with the challenges of life, who helped me to connect with my troubled time, to connect me with the trouble, challenging issues. So therefore, that dimension of Hikha and Diksha is now coming back to the new education policy, and that is a very comprehensive extension of Hikha and Diksha. However, unfortunately, all these points I do not want to discuss in isolation. I want to discuss it as I think they are important, that I need to tell on the basis of my experience. What worries me more is that complacency has engulfed to a great extent to our teaching community. This observation I have made after a series of introspection, after a series of my interaction with our teaching community. Well, here I would like to give you an example of a principal. I have the opportunity to be associated with various principals interview. One principal who is already a principal of a college, he came again, appeared in the interview. I asked him, why are you coming again? He said, sir, the present college, I am having, all of them are associate professors, 25 associate professors. I do not have any assistant professor. So the problem is that once we become associate professors, we believe we have attained the ultimate promotion, our career has been achieved. So we do not make ourselves amenable to authority, to our principal, or to the other areas. We do not remain accountable. Well, having said, I do not want to put the blame entirely on an associate professor, but there is a tendency. It's not that the principals are all, they are without having any kind of problems. They are also having lots of problems. But the issue is that our teaching ends at 2:30 p.m. And this happens in many colleges, in many universities. This is what we also need to think about. Another phenomenon is that there is a drastic reduction of students in some colleges in undergraduate courses. In some colleges in Upper Assam, students have been reduced to 200 in all degree courses, combining arts, science from a student capacity of 2,000, whereas there are 20 associate professors. Higher secondary has almost become defunct in colleges, as most of the science students rather prefer to opt for professional coaching institutes. But I hope this phenomenon will be rectified after the new secondary system as per new education policy. I do not think these colleges will qualify to become autonomous colleges immediately. This is about an introspection. It is not about passing the buck. It is not about holding the colleges responsible, but these are certain serious issues. I think time has come for a proper mapping of all colleges in Assam about their students' intake, teachers and other human resources for last 10 years. Accordingly, some posts may be re-allotted as per pedagogical as well as market demand. Besides, cluster of colleges may be created to meet new deficiencies. For example, those who are having less students, more professor or associate professor or assistant professors. Within a cluster, we can create cluster of colleges. I think these issues need to be thought about. Then let me also talk about quality of publication, because these are certain fundamental structural issues without which higher education in Assam will remain elusive, the kind of quality that we are talking about. Recently, I had the opportunity to look into some of the publication of our college teachers. We all belong to teaching community with equal caliber and talent. Well, I am not suffering from holier than thou attitude, nor do I have the audacity of claiming high volume of publications. Nevertheless, we have something substantial to fall back upon. But somehow, taken for granted attitude has engulfed so much so that even we didn't hesitate to submit in memory of my mother as a publication claim for my promotion. I was very surprised to see that one publication which was claimed for promotion was a writings, a more mark or not likha. If this is the publication we claim as our research, I think this will be a very sad day for our higher education. These are certain brushstrokes. These are certain fundamental issues. If we do not address them, I do not think this new education policy will find its day in the days to come. While some publications are of very high standard, for which we have issued appreciation letter, nevertheless, in many cases, college magazines or some local publications remain main source for showcasing our research publication quality. In number of cases, paid articles in online journals are most preferred form of publications by our teaching community, which are later on found out to be clone journals, and majority of them de-recognized or delisted by Scopus. What we have observed is mushrooming growth of journals by various colleges. These are positive developments. However, we must remember that mere mentioning as peer review or blind peer review or declaration as international journal doesn't make it so. One need to have editorial board, and editorial policy has to be developed with reference style, research categorization, and so on. Majority of our publication lack methodological, theoretical, conceptual, and analytical vigor. In majority cases, we fall prey to statistical numbers, raw data, diagrams, charts, and tables. No doubt, these are important facets of research. However, these alone do not make research. If we believe that it is only statistical data or raw data, diagrams, charts, and tables make us research, they are important component, but we need to go beyond that. These kind of reliance, most of the articles we have found that it is statistical analysis. We do not go beyond that. I think these are some ways. You have the ways and means to attain truth, but you need to have a conceptual framework. You need to have a theoretical framework. Neutral research is a misnomer in social science research. We need to be objective, we need to have a perspective and a conceptual framework, and then finally an objective situation. There will be limitations, criticism, and that will lead to further research for truth. We must remember our research must claim or generate new knowledge or new frontiers. But unfortunately, these research publications do not fall into these categories. Well, having said, I do not want to compartmentalize between college and university. Such scenario is applicable to many universities also. However, let me reiterate this point. This is not to deny some very high level of publications made by college teachers, and as I have said, we have issued appreciation letters for those wonderful publications. Then coming to recruitment of assistant professor, it has recently generated lot of contestations, lot of confusion and criticism. Under the existing system, the same selected candidate keeps on appearing in various colleges until and unless he or she finds preferred destination. In the process, one candidate holds more than 6 and 7 colleges and the seat is blocked till he or she finds her the preferred destination or the preferred college. I think this needs to be done away with. Secondly, each unemployed youth or applicant has to pay 3,000, 4,000 rupees while applying for the post, and in the process, an unemployed youth finds it extremely difficult to pay processing fees in various colleges. I am told some students have mortgaged or sold their land to apply for teaching post. Thirdly, the criteria for selection OM is published by DHE. It has caused lot of controversy. Most important issue is the holding of interview. It is in fact many discrepancies occur at college level in giving interview marks. Many meritorious students are deprived in order to appoint the preferred candidate or someone who have been already working. However, we cannot throw the baby with the bathwater. Some mechanism has to be found with proper transparency so that interview is given due it is. Fourth, I think we need to do away with the present type of interview being held in respective colleges. There should be a duly constituted assistant professor recruitment central commission that will appoint about 30 college teachers per year who shall be eligible for appointment in various colleges of Assam on the basis of merit. However, extreme care should be taken in the selection of members of the committee. Many such centrally recommending committee has been or commission has been appointed in many states. Now next I would like to come about the plight of many such new universities which have been established in last maybe 10-12 years. More than 12 universities have been set up, names we all of us know, but unfortunately it looks like the expansion of universities in Assam adds more in numbers than in its quality. We need institutes of higher education and universities. However, it looks like we have no vision what we intend to achieve and with some of these universities. Some of them have not taken off at all. Some of them have vice chancellors, some of them are not, with very few officials and academic posts. Many of these have been running on an ad hoc basis. Many of the VCs have no clue where to begin from as they have no support system. In some cases, we have simply upgraded an existing college without enhancing its qualitative and quantitative dimension. I think government has to be more proactive. Government's financial liabilities are well understood. However, when we establish a university, we cannot do so without having a definite academic vision plan and financial roadmap. Separate infrastructural and academic grants need to be earmarked for expansion of these universities, and when we appoint new vice chancellors, they would at least have an idea where to begin from and what is their mandate. Then next, I would love to talk about innovation and autonomy. The NEP talks about innovation and autonomy. Autonomy must not be understood only in terms of taking critical stand against government, which we can do so through our academic writings and research. In most cases, we have our autonomy to discharge our duties and functions. Pertaining to academics, I think innovation and autonomy is required in teaching, framing questions, syllabus, role of technology, and I think here we need to expand the definition of teachers by including adjunct professors. Some of universities have been doing, I think in Cotton College, this has been introduced, sir, isn't it? Yes. Adjunct professor, then visiting professors, cluster professors, etc. That can give adequate space to experts like musicians, cultural icons, scientists, literateurs, diplomats, bureaucrats, managers, and entrepreneurs. In JNU, we will find that academics doesn't comprise only of the teaching community. The retired person, the experts are also invited as an adjunct or visiting fellow. I think we need to welcome this process. Framing of questions is very important. we need to focus more on cognitive application skill rather than retentive memory skills. Even today, our questions are revolved around what, why, when, and critically discuss powers and functions of president. I think this is a very easy way of asking questions. Rather than doing that, we need to frame questions from real life situations, give them in descriptions, and then the students be asked to apply particular principle from textbook, theory, or clause, or articles. For example, when we give questions to our students in political science, the current farmers' agitation, this may be asked to answer by asking which provision of the constitution would they apply if they have to represent a state cause. So what I'm trying to say is that we need to give a real life situation in description, and then they should be asked to apply various theories, various clauses, various principles from textbook. I think COVID-19 has demonstrated importance of technology in education. Digital teaching, SWAYAM platform, open education resources, multimedia center, and well-designed hall with audiovisual facilities must be made available to our all higher education institutes. Films, award-winning documentaries, docu-features, video lectures by prominent intellectuals, etc. should be a must in new education culture and syllabus that we have been propagating. Local context should get priority in syllabus along with universal and national issues. Incubation center, startup projects make comments by taking industry, business community, and industrial units into confidence. Here we can introduce incentives in the form of reward to achievers and punishment to habitual offenders. Social science syllabus need to be in conformity with the community, and I suggest more empirical studies in various papers by taking students to ethnic organizations, panchayats, villages, NGOs, government agencies, human rights organizations, etc. Here, the social science syllabus should be framed, and I do not have hesitation in suggesting the TIS syllabus. Tata Institute of Social Science, I was associated with the syllabus formation in certain papers, and I believe their hands-on experience is a must because new education policy talks about connecting with community. We cannot teach social science, we cannot teach economics, history, political science, all these subjects, even biology, chemistry, by confining ourselves to the classroom. We need community hands-on experience, and particularly in social science, I believe the TIS syllabus would be of immense help. And here I think KKH Open University has been playing an architectural role in developing local context by encouraging study material in local languages. The university has enriched Assamese children literature by publishing a compendium, Assam Sisu Sahitya, in 41 volumes in the state. What is most remarkable about KKH Open University is that they have already been playing the role as has been envisaged by new education policy by expanding quality GR in the region in general and Assam in particular. Next, I would like to talk about financial and functional autonomy. This financial and functional autonomy has been already envisaged by various commissions and committees. For example, YESPOL committee in 2009 talked about differential fee structure for poor and rich. 1986 policy talked about efficient use of resources, contribution of private enterprises, increasing fees. Ramamurthy Review Committee 1990 talked about said management education should be self-financing. They talked about increasing tuition fees. Program of Action 1992 talked about all institutions to achieve maximum self-reliance by generating resources. In fact, some particularly Knowledge Commission in 2007 talked about 20% of total expenditure should be from fees and other incentives and other mode of revenue. But unfortunately, today our universities and colleges, their revenue is shrinking like anything. The current fee system needs to be revamped with immediate effect. On the one hand, we have been talking about resource generation, private investment, self-sustaining mode, PPP mode, etc. On the other hand, we are simply plugging all the revenue generation by the college and universities. Admission fees, registration, examination fees, certificates, affiliation of colleges, self-funding courses are some of the important sources of revenue for university and colleges, which are generally spent on students' welfare in various forms. Undeniably, the government may have welfare-oriented policies, and hence government may grant concession in terms of fees, book grants, scholarship, etc. However, there must not be huge incompatibility between the public and private institutions. On the one hand, fees and everything is free. On the other hand, in private institution, the same parents may pay huge amount for the other sons and daughters' admission. I think such policies should be based on necessity and to uplift the poor students and rather than as a privilege. But now it has become a privilege, not need-based. We need to make it need-based. Besides, we talk about innovation. We talk about innovation and remaining relevant and to be relevant in the market. We talk about employability and market-oriented courses. For that, higher education institutions, be it colleges or university, must have financial and functional autonomy to open new courses. And government must create new posts, keeping in mind the changing nature of our economy and market. Education policy says that, I quote, meanwhile an autonomous degree granting college will refer to a large multidisciplinary institution of higher learning that grants undergraduate degrees and is primarily focused on undergraduate teaching, though it would not be restricted to that, and it need not be restricted to that, it would generally be smaller than a typical university, unquote. Yes, but college education primary job is to provide undergraduate education. Some colleges may have the facilities, may have the infrastructure requirements, but unfortunately, at current pace, many colleges are granted PG institution without having infrastructure facilities. This needs to be taken very seriously by honorable VCs and our college inspection team, including Director of College Development Council. Next point, I would like to talk about policy and research convergence. I think in our state, particularly in Dispur, I have the opportunity to meet various bureaucrats and policymakers. In most cases, our academic community is ridiculed. Believe me, in many cases, we are ridiculed. Why? Because our universities, they say, have become an institution of producing PhDs. And they say that without having any benefits to the society, without having any benefits to the government. I believe that is why I believe there should be proper convergence between the epistemic community and the policymakers. Think tanks at university play a decisive role in policy articulation in places like Delhi and also with Government of India. I think in Assam, the State Innovation and Transformation Ayog of Government Assam could be a convergence body where the universities could send their top theses and make them available online through Sudganga, etc., which our government policymakers can access. But now there is a huge hiatus, a huge disagreement, huge gap between the policymakers and the research we make. We need to make them available to the government, and government also must come forward to have the benefit of those research which our researchers have been doing for 5-6 years. Now, what I would like to, I'm coming to the conclusion part. We need to talk about social science and science. Now, this new education policy, it focuses more on liberal education. And it says, and I quote, India has a long tradition of holistic and multidisciplinary learning from universities such as Takshashila and Nalanda to the extensive literatures of India combining subjects across fields. Ancient Indian literary work such as Banabhatta's Kadambari described a good education as knowledge of 64 kalas or arts. And among these 64 arts were not only subjects such as singing and painting, but also scientific fields such as chemistry and mathematics, vocational fields such as carpentry and clothes making, professional fields such as medicine and engineering, as well as soft skills such as communication, discussion, debate, etc. Unquote. But this liberal education is again, as I look at it, will be more beneficial for science and technical students rather than social science students. Why have I said so? I said so because a physics major 1 student, suppose a student taking physics major as 1. Now this student with physics major may take music or language as major 2 or minor subject. But social science and humanities students with major in history or psychology or political science will not be able to take a science subject as his minor subject because of his background, his and her background. Thus, the system may be heavily loaded for the science and technical students who will now have access to arts and social science domain, but not vice versa. This will provide the science students an edge over the social science students. However, mere having liberal education will not serve its purpose until we find its reflection in the job market of both public and private sector. The above disadvantage, as I have said, may be curbed if social science students are absorbed in technical and medical and other private sector jobs and in developmental projects. Today in our country, we have a technological and scientific arrogance everywhere. We have a scientific and technological arrogance everywhere. Look at the operation of those hydroelectric power. We have never taken community consent seriously. We have never thought that taking the society along is an important issue, as a result of which those hydroelectric projects now running, they're becoming extremely expensive, more than 3,000, 4,000 crores extra have been already spent in Suansri Mega Dam. So here the community consent becomes important, discussion becomes important, negotiation, dialogue becomes important, and that is why my argument is that social science students should get some reflection in engineering sector, in technical sector, in developmental projects, even in medicine. Even in medicine, one doctor, my friend, he recently did his PhD in political science, in health technology. I asked him why. He said, we have become inhuman. How? Because the skull becomes our, the place where we keep our clothes. We are insensitive. That's how we have been taught. I think the best example is, Munna Bhai MBBS, where the principal tells the patient is not a patient, the patient is a body. But ultimately, where the doctors will operate, where the engineers will operate, where the scientists will operate, they will ultimately operate in society. So although we are going for liberal education, but social science students, graduates should be taken into those, road construction. Road construction, land acquisition is an important question. These are dimensions of social science people. So that is why, even if we only talk about liberal education, but without extending it to the job market, I think there will be a relative disadvantage for the social science students and also for the literary and art subjects. Lastly, I would like to talk about value addition to subjects. What is value addition? Value addition in this age of new education policy, we need to add values to our education. This needs to be told. That's what we have also been trying to do in our discipline in political science in Guwahati University. For example, even in 2007, we have introduced peace and conflict studies, where negotiation and dialogue were the important components. At this hour, we brought together various conflictual parties together, including the Alpha Pro Talks group together with the government, and that's how a culture, peace culture, was developing at that point of time. So this is a value addition. Even today, we had submitted a proposal to Government of Assam in 2016-17 talking about Southeast Asia Center in Guwahati University, and government has kindly consented and granted a center. Now this kind of value addition needs to be done by all people in their respective department, in their respective discipline, in history, in physics, in chemistry. So without value addition, I believe our higher education, whether we implement new education policy or not, mere principles will not enhance the quality. In conclusion, Jacques Delors, he published The Treasure Within, and one was given to UNESCO in 1996. I'm always fond of Jacques Delors' the 4 ambitions of education. What is education? He said education is basically a combination of 4 factors: learning to know, learning to do, learning to be, and to live together. Learning to know is the epistemological, pedagogical quest. We must know something. Then learning to do is the practical, empirical dimension. What Gandhiji taught us. Mere learning is not enough. We need to transform it to the reality. Then to be, we need to have the capacity to act autonomously. We must have the eligibility to face challenging situation, what is called SQ, the social quotient, what is called the emotional quotient. That is what is very important even in psychological trauma, challenging situation. It is not just success that we must face. We must also confront failure also. That's what learning to be would teach us. And last but not the least is to live together. I think that is the most important dimension of higher education. Or even otherwise, we need to teach our children and our graduates to live together in spite of differences, in spite of contradictions. We need to learn, we need to be human. That's what even Bhupen Hazarika also said. Jili kamal uitore par, hasi pate bhasha dibo, sifunge asha dibo, rong ghare melibo duar, homaje khabotibo mohan manobotar, bigyan anibo joar. So he talks about, while writing the anthem for our university, Guwahati University, talks about rationality. He talks about humanity. He talks about scientific quest and celebration of pluralism. Here, let me conclude by giving a quotation from a survivor of a concentration camp. I am a survivor of a concentration camp. My eyes saw that no man should witness, which was during the time of Nazi situation. And he said, gas chambers built by learned engineers, children poisoned by educated physicians, infants killed by trained nurses, women and babies shot and burned by high school and college graduates. So I am suspicious of education. My request is, help your students become human. Your efforts must never produce learned monsters, skilled psychopaths, educated Eichmanns. Reading, writing, arithmetic are important only if they serve to make our children more human. So these are some of the principles. I'm not talking about NEP per se, but these principles need to be enhanced. The 7 pillars that I have been talking about purely on the basis of my experience. I have no intention to hurt anybody, and I believe in the days to come, government is coming forward with the visionary leadership under our Chaudhary sir and Honorable Minister in Education. I believe we shall be in a position to introduce this qualitative dimension in our higher education. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you very much, sir, for your thought-provoking lecture. It will be a great pleasure for us to listen to you again in our future events. We have here amongst us eminent scholar Professor Bhavesh Goswami, Vice Chancellor, Cotton University. I request Dr. Mridusmita Dora to felicitate Sir with a Fulam Gamosa. Thank you. Now I request the Registrar and Chairman of the 15th Foundation Day Celebration Committee, Krishnakanta Handik State Open University, Dr. Arupjyoti Chaudhary, to offer his vote of thanks.
Honorable Vice Chancellor, Founder Vice Chancellor of this university, Professor Srinath Borua sir, internationally acclaimed chemical scientist, formerly Vice Chancellor at Tezpur Central University, and presently Advisor Education Government of Assam, Professor Mihir Kanti Chaudhary sir, Professor Nani Gopal Mohanto from the Department of Political Science, Guwahati University, and Director, Center for South Asian Studies, Vice Chancellors, former Vice Chancellors, Registers, former Registers, distinguished guests, and members of the university community. First of all, a very, very good afternoon to all of you. I take it as my proud privilege to acknowledge formally your presence, cooperation, and support for the event, the 15th Foundation Day celebration of the university. As all of you know, ours is a growing institution. The institution is gradually deepening its roots. But at the same time, because of the neoliberal ambience all over the world and the prevailing pandemic have put before us certain major problems. Insofar as the neoliberal ambience is concerned, as you all know, it has repositioned the state and there has been a withering away of the welfare dimensions of the state. At the same time, the balance between the need and the greed seems to have been lost. It is as if greed and greed everywhere. Greed almost has poisoned man's life, has barricaded the life with hate, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. That is the neoliberal part. Coming to the other dimension, what about the other dimension of pandemic? The pandemic is also taking its toll in terms of loss of livelihood opportunities. It is in this context, sir, that as a modest endeavor from this university, our Vice Chancellor has placed before us the concept of total learning. What is total learning? Learning with contentment, learning with joy, learning with flexibility, and learning with values, learning for life, learning the skill, and learning for livelihood. It is a totality. And that totality, that principle, we find an endorsement in the form of the presence of the distinguished audience today. That they all endorse this policy of total learning as put before us by the Honorable Vice Chancellor. We know we are very ordinary at this moment, but at the same time we aspire to be extraordinary. And that is why we seek your blessings, guidance, support, and cooperation. Kind of forgiving as you are, I'm sure you won't mind any lapse on our part while organizing this event. আজিৰ এই অনুষ্ঠানৰ অভ্যাগত অতিথিসকলৰ কাৰণে আৰু আমাৰ বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ৰ সকলো কৰ্মচাৰী, শিক্ষক, বিষয়াৰ কাৰণে আমি সামান্য একাপ চাহ আৰু সামান্য জলপানৰ আয়োজন কৰিছোঁ। আহক আমি একেলগে চাহ খাওঁ, কথা পাতোঁ আৰু আজিৰ এই সন্ধিয়াৰ স্মৃতি চিৰযুগমীয়া কৰি ৰাখোঁ। ধন্যবাদ।
Dhanyabad, sir. With this, we have come to the end of today's wonderful program. এতিয়া অসম সংগীতেৰে আমি আজিৰ এই অনুষ্ঠানটিৰ সামৰণি মাৰিব বিচাৰিছোঁ। আমি সকলোৰে বাবে জলযোগৰ ব্যৱস্থা কৰিছোঁ, সকলোৱে গ্ৰহণ কৰিব বুলি আশা ৰাখিছোঁ। সকলোকে পুনৰ